The world was transformed. There were no people anymore. None alive, anyway. Only me and the oceans of bone. Stacks, piles, mountains. They covered every inch of the planet, as far as I could see, as long as I traveled. I stayed away from the cities when I could. They were buried. Towers of ivory blocked out second, third, fourth-story windows. In places, they swallowed entire buildings. They could swallow me, too, if I wasn't careful. I kept to the back roads where the bone piles were closest to Earth, where I could still see the tops of vehicles, where rows of trees pointed me down paths that existed long ago. Highways, towns, farms. The countryside was desolate, but I never felt alone. Maybe it was insanity creeping in through my psychic wounds. Maybe it was the ghost of untold legions populating the space, watching me. The lone survivor. The outsider in the apocalypse. Or maybe it was all those eyes, hollowed out pairs of darkness with their smiling faces staring up at me from the ground as I tread over what was left of mankind. Thousands of them, millions of them, tens of millions, hundreds of millions. More. More. Always more. Staring at me in screaming silence. I didn't know where I was going until I saw it in the distance, rising out of a giant mountain of white. It beckoned me to continue beyond the point where hope had disappeared and survival instinct had given way to madness. It was my only purpose, to reach the obelisk at the top of the summit. And when I finally reached my destination, I realized with horror and fascination that the structure was eerily familiar and undeniably man-made. The column wider than an ancient sequoia and stretching 100 feet into the air. It was made of hard plastic. There were words carved into the side. Words I couldn't read. I couldn't read them because I couldn't read anything in this universe, because as many of my sleep doctors had told me before, you can't read anything in your dreams. So without the benefit of knowing the true names etched into the side, I'll fill in this part with my best guess. Bear in mind, these names are 100% fictional and made up, and in no particular order. Spacey Trash Panda, X, Amanda Maelstrom, Dev, 0132132, Cece, Pohili83, Nick H, Simon Bears, Amy Helps, Genghis Dawn, Genkenzi, X-Files Sir, Tyler Martin, M. Rifton, Daniel Bowles, CNB, Taff, Atrophic, Schlordas, Katie, Minky, Ariel, Catnip411, himbojerry, Jude Gulk, Aditi, Daniel Griffin, Arbitrary Handle, Dressic, Ride and Die, Villicus, Mikey, Raccoon Kaiju, Lauren Kane, and Steve. What could these names possibly mean, I wondered. Was this a memorial of some sort? I couldn't guess, but somehow I understood that without the people named here, I wouldn't have made it this far. They had my full gratitude for whatever it was they'd done. Okay. What in the unholy nightmare shit is this? I turned to see that I was no longer alone with the ghosts. Another individual had appeared out of nowhere. I would have been surprised if that emotion hadn't left me long ago, burned out from overuse. Hey, I said, who are you? Jesus Christ, he yelled, looking around us. I doubt that, I said. Everyone knows Jesus was Middle Eastern. No, Jack? Also not true. I'm Jack. We can't both be Jack. After a few more long seconds of watching him fumble about, trying to find balance in the bone ground, the answer presented itself to me all on its own. This was the man, or demigod, or trickster, or ghost, or whatever else it might have been, that I'd encountered ever so briefly another lifetime ago, at a small diner in the middle of nowhere. He showed off an impossible ability to freeze time. Also, he could offer an unsolicited warning about where my travels might take me. So much for that. "You were the nerd from Gilligan's Place," I said. "Yeah," he responded, struggling to stay upright. "We never got properly introduced. My name is Em—" The tip of his boot caught inside the mouth of a skull as he tried to step forward. Immediately, he fell over and crashed into the pile. "What are you doing here?" I asked. He sat up and looked around. "Why are there so many skulls?" I shrugged. "Beats me. Entire Earth appears to be covered in skulls, which really begs the question, where are all the rest of the bones? I've been hiking for eons, and I haven't seen one femur, one collarbone, one rib, nothing, just skulls. I mean, when you think about it, the marvel of engineering that is piling up all these skulls pales in comparison to the feat of disposing of the rest of the skeletal remains." "What?" he asked, exasperated. "Sorry," I said. "I haven't talked to anyone in a while, so these thoughts have been simmering. What brings you here, Em?" That's not my whole name. I don't care." "Well," he said, on shaky legs and looking around, "I just wanted to check in. Last time we spoke, it seemed to me like you were preparing to return to your hometown." "Yeah," I said, nodding. "You told me not to." "Right," he said, hesitantly returning to my nod. "And then it looks like you didn't." "No, of course we didn't. You told us not to." "Yeah, but I guess I wasn't actually expecting you to heed the advice of someone who can freeze time," I asked. "Are you kidding? What do you think I am, an idiot? A glutton for punishment? You said to stay away, so I did. Now you're here to criticize me?" Just then, I felt the cold, heavy rain begin to fall from the sky. I knew what this meant, but he didn't. It was early in my adventure here that I learned how to stay alive. Key was keeping my head above the pile. I fashioned a pair of snowshoes out of a couple of tennis rackets and some twine. I lifted my prosthetic leg and showed the man the specific footwear attached to the end. "You might want to try something like this before—" It was too late. The reaction had already started. Water and dirt turned to mud, water and fire turned to smoke, water and skulls turned into something similar to a ball pit from a children's play place, only way less gross. He sank to his knees as the falling water increased into a torrent. "Jack!" he screamed. "You're so—" He sank to his chest. "Frickin'—" He sank to his chin. "Weird!" He slipped below the surface. Right then, I heard another sound. I turned to see the obelisk of plastic was moving, lifting, rising out of the ground. I braced for the skullavalanche that rushed in every direction from it, pelting me with bone and teeth. But I couldn't look away. Couldn't take my eyes off of it. The tower rose further and further, blocking out what was left of the sky. The dark green plastic in this scale revealed a new shape. Curvatures too subtle to see from up close, and with a loud crash, the largest section of the gargantuan object burst from the ground. I was falling into the empty chasm it left behind, but still, I couldn't look anywhere but up. All I could do was watch. The newest piece was wider at the bottom, a rectangular shape with rows of shimmering metal plates, bladed edges that glimmered in the rain as it levitated with the rest, floating into the sky. As I fell, my feeble mind began to comprehend the entirety of the object. The shape I recognized as a giant, disposable razor. And then I heard the voice booming inside my head, a titan screaming the words. "Dollar Shave Club. Use promo code SkullWorld at checkout for 15% off your first month's box." Skulls collapsed around me as I sank into my grave. And all I could think was that 15% off doesn't really seem like all that great a deal to me. Hey there kids, it's me, Mr. Creepypasta, and I just wanted to tell you thank you so much for watching tonight's video or for listening to tonight's episode of the podcast, wherever you happen to do that. So if it's like on YouTube, then you're probably, watching the video, but if it's on, not then you're probably listening to the podcast, like with Spotify or with Apple or something like that. But yeah, thank you so much for listening. And as always, I want to give a very big thank you to everybody who supports me over at Patreon. That's patreon.com/MrCreepyPasta. I cannot thank you guys enough. Thank you guys so much for being supporters. That goes for everybody who was down in the description, as well as AcidSystem, BallarmsTheRat, Blake Rattler, Brandon Mendoza, Brenna, BrimstonePandemonium, Caltuna, Chainsmoker Dealer, ChicagoHitman, CoryxKenshin, Cronut508, CrusaderChocobo, CursepoxPrimarch, Dakota Best, Daniel Poulsen, Dante Kinkade, Diana Kraus, Ellie Hutmire, Enchanted Buns, Estebean, Gemma Halsey, HIDive's nephew, himbojerry, Hourminsec's Jay Keems, Jed is Pet, Jordan Humble, King Crab, Mr. Marcus Blitz, Old Penguin, Peaceful Buddha, Psychomel, Red Shadowcat, Remember the Sun, Rinku Star, Salty Surprise, Samara Line, Seclude, Simba's Bloody Mojo, Sky Harbor, Smiley the Psychotic, Sullyman, Charlie Sue, the Chavez Brothers. Thank you so much. And honestly, thank you to everybody, even those guys that are in there for just $1. It really helps me out. Once again, that's patreon.com/MrCreepyPasta. Or if you guys like to just listen, honestly, it helps me out a lot too. Thank you guys so much for being here. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. And sweet dreams.